Hello, sacred souls. It's Susanna from Alamanic Shaman. What I have here for us tonight is a heavy topic that came to me 3 days ago. I don't remember exactly when, but it is to heal from national shame and guilt. And this is something that on some level I've been aware of for a long time, except not necessarily completely consciously. But basically, as a teenager growing up in Germany, post-war, right? I read a lot of books on survivor stories from the Holocaust. And first of all, I always identified with the victims or the survivors. And secondly, I kind of like for at least since then, maybe before, I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe around that time it might have started that I just felt this national guilt kind of weighing on me. And it's not that I was always consciously aware of it. I mean, I used to babysit for Jewish people, and I had a very dear Jewish friend for many, many years. And we were all cool. Initially, there was usually the conversation about that time in history that, they had to know that we were cool with each other and stuff. But like, it wasn't really an issue, except there was this underlying feeling of guilt. And I remember thinking, why am I feeling guilty? I didn't do any of that, and I wasn't even born. And as far as I know or knew, no one in my family was directly actively doing any of this. So I just couldn't quite explain it even to myself, like in my mind. And I already did some ceremonies to heal, that part of history, but it was still there, like it wasn't quite gone. And just a few days ago is when I realized it was the national shame that needed to be healed. And it may take several ceremonies, just like the Wounded Feminine Collective is still not healed just after one ceremony, right? And like there are many light workers working on that and so on, right? So I'm not comparing it directly to that, because the Wounded Feminine is actually kind of the opposite role, right? It's more the victim, but in the sense of when there is something really big and heavy that needs to be healed, it requires a lot of light work to heal it. And I, like in the past, I had more the angle of coming from the victims. However, as I was guided now, it's also like there's a huge dark negative impact on the soul that the soul takes on when it as the soul, right, in one particular lifetime, let's say, commits atrocities, when, let's say, the person actively partakes in persecutions, in genocides, in torture, rape, or anything like that. Anything that is committed usually by a tyranny, that could also involve having people disappear, and either they die of starvation in work camps, like for example what was even happening after the war in Siberia, right? And in many places around the world there are or there were throughout history dictatorships and atrocities committed. Like what comes to mind is also, for example, the genocide in Rwanda that happened, I think at this point it's been like 2 decades, and so on, right? So many, many people worldwide are directly or indirectly affected by that. And indirectly meaning that it's what we inherit from our culture. So there could be something directly passed down to us through our lineage, but it can also, and in this case, like that's what the ceremony is mainly for, be passed down to us as national shame and guilt, because our culture, our nationality, our country had the role of evil, right? They took on the role of evil and had to live with that. So it's almost like when something dark takes on a life of its own, it almost like becomes like a demon. It's like all that darkness that is there, it becomes like a force, like an energy force that kind of, yeah, it takes on a life of its own in a sense. And that's what is happening like with the national shame and guilt, right? It's like, it's almost like a force of its own that hangs like a dark cloud over the people, right? And this healing shall really be applied to any and all people and cultures that have anything dark in their history, which is pretty much everywhere at some point throughout history, right? So what I want to do now is explain to you like what I put on the altar here. And I have to remember to put a trigger warning in the title just because of the terms and words that I've used so far already. I won't go into like more details, but sometimes when someone is traumatized, they can be triggered by something as simple as seeing a knife handled in a way that is maybe careless, or even just someone holding a knife where maybe the person reminds them of their torturer or whatever, right? So it could be something that wouldn't even occur to someone who wasn't traumatized, right? Who's not sensitized to the triggers. But for those affected by it, the tiniest thing can be a trigger, right? And I think in some ways that also plays out in our modern culture, because I find overall it has gotten to the point where a lot of people, let's say if someone does something wrong, such as litter, let's say they throw their garbage on the street instead of in the garbage, right? A lot of times people are too afraid to even say anything because they don't know if that person is going to go off on them and like just go crazy, and who knows if they might get violent or whatever, right? So that is because so much trauma has been passed down, and it may not have had the same form, but anyone who was traumatized in circumstances that I described earlier will then pass that on in their family dynamic as well, right? And just the energy, the dysfunction, the toxicity, all of that. Okay, I think I've said enough. I'm pretty sure it's clear. And sorry, that laughter was not laughing at the topic, okay? It was more kind of to not get too sucked into the darkness, okay? So what I laid out here today is, first of all, the flowers that I had on the altar yesterday, but kind of how we would put flowers on a grave. And if you remember my little hero doll, and I had already taken the cape off and used it as a scarf on the other doll, He also had a red mask, which I cut off and put here. And the red shall represent the blood of all those committed crimes, and if you want to look at them as sins as well, right? Like on an ethical and moral level, as well as crimes on a legal level, right? It's also a mask because anyone who commits atrocities like that in those dictatorships, in those regimes, they're like the whole culture is kind of so brainwashed into thinking that they're doing the right thing, and they're almost like celebrated as heroes until that regime ends, and then comes the Great Awakening of what was really going on. And it often takes at least 1 or 2 generations before things are more normal again. They've returned to normal in society. Like, for example, that part of history, like anything that happened during World War II and during the Third Reich was not taught in school when my mother went to school, and she was born in 1945, right? So her generation simply did not learn about that part of history because the teachers were of that generation and they didn't want to teach it, right? Like, there was too much shame, and yeah, I guess it's when you shove something under the rug and just pretend it never happened and it wasn't there and la la la, everything's fine, right? Sort of in that sense, they just try to forget it and move on, right? And in my generation, which is like the next generation, we learned about that in school, and yeah, like it was looked at as a part of history that we need to learn from, right? And the country then also made payments to Israel to kind of make up, not that you can ever really make up for it, but to kind of, sorry, I can't find the right words right now. To try to make up in whatever way possible for what happened, right? Sorry, this is kind of a little emotional for me right now. So, anyway, I'm gonna go back to explaining this a little bit more. So what else I was guided to use is like the bones to represent our ancestral inheritance, but also meaning the culture, right? Like our culture, it's like where we come from. And I used these 2 knives and the axe because they're all dark, if you can see. And especially the axe, it, makes me think of brute force. And the knives just like killing and also like backstabbing, because in those kind of regimes, one neighbor can suddenly turn against another, or one friend or family member can turn against another. Whereas before, they were living together peacefully and got along and everything, and then suddenly the regime and brainwashing kicks in, and then it just, people get betrayed and backstabbed and so on, right? So, yeah, so that's what these represent. And I was guided to buy molasses today because the last one I had was about 30 years old and I recently threw it out. because I never really use it. I bought it years and years ago when someone taught me how to bake molasses bread. And then I never really did after that, like after the contact ended. And that was actually blackstrap molasses, and it was so black and so thick. And I didn't realize that what I bought isn't quite as thick and quite as dark, but and I actually tried it. It tastes pretty good. I didn't realize because it was never a big part of my culture to use molasses. So as you can see, like, I don't know if you can see it well enough, but you'll see it when I pour it out. It moves quite easily. Like the other stuff I had, you would have to hold the bottle like down and it would just slowly move. And I think that's where the proverb, as thick as molasses, right, comes from, or that it moves as thick as molasses. So this molasses shall represent the dark, gooey, gunky evil that is within us and around us that represents this national shame and guilt. And that shall come pouring out of us. I'm going to pour it into the glass jar. And I actually want to return it to Mother Earth. So I will then bring it to a park. Not today, obviously. It's really late at night, but tomorrow. I will bring it to a park and pour it out there, and Mother Earth will help neutralize all of that, right? But we're already going to do like as much of the light work here to get it out of us and stating that it shall be neutralized. And I chose the Mother Mary candle and a religious candle to help us with this healing, to represent the divine as well as the heart healing, right? So, oh yes, and I do want to use these as rattles again to have our ancestors that are in the light help us very strongly with this healing, because it is affecting our ancestral lineages very strongly, right? So yeah, that's about it. And I think we can get started. So let's smudge and then call in our spirit team. Oops. That's also very telling. The flame just stopped. So all that darkness is really gunking up our energy field, our inner flame, our light. So it's very important that we now heal and release that so that we can successfully continue on our ascension and just on our healing path. Okay. Oh, this feels good. Please cleanse, clear, and renew all of our energies. And take away any and all darkness, anything unhealed that is within us and all around us, in our energy field, in our lives, that is karmically connected to us, through our culture, through our lineages. Clear all of that away, please. And send it into the fire to burn away and transmute it into pure divine love light energy, and return it to source for reintegration, and help us be fully and completely reconnected to our own divinity within us, as well as all around us, and through that be in oneness again. Thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations. Okay. Dear Creator, higher power, source, and soul energy, our higher selves, our higher spirit guides of the light, our ancestors that are in the light, dear Mother Earth, powers of all four directions, powers of the east, powers of the south, powers of the west, powers of the north, powers of all four elements, air, earth, fire, and water. And one moment, please. All other benevolent powers, forces, spirits, and beings of the universe, especially the Dragon Collective of the Light. And I also feel like we need more angelic representation here as well. And of course, the light crystal. Please join the ceremony and assist the healings, prayers, and protection with all of your powers. Thank you. Please close the circle of protection around us. Thank you. Okay, first of all, I want to give strongly express our gratitude to our ancestors for helping us very strongly with this ceremony, and also for the Dragon Collective of Light to come through and help us. And of course, all other spirit guides that we have, and the divine. Thank you so much for helping us heal from this dark past of our cultural history, of the history of our country and or culture where we come from. Help us release as much as we can today, and let it continue to stream out of us over the next few weeks until it's all gone. Let the healing continue and continue and continue until it's all out and done. It is time that all this darkness that our people have taken on be released, and all those innocent people of our culture and us ourselves who are doing the hard healing work, let us be released from this burden. Thank you. Oh, wow. I feel almost dizzy. That's how strong this dark energy and burden is. It's really like weighing heavily on us. It's really limiting and blocking us. And in some cases, people can't even think straight because it messed with their minds. That can also be seen in other aspects. Oh, sorry. I just totally hit the tripod or in the phone here. That can also be seen in other aspects of trauma where it's more obvious trauma, whereas with perpetrators, it's often not looked at it that way, but the soul took on a lot of darkness. But that can come out as brain fog, right? That all this darkness causes the brain to not work properly anymore. It's like foggy. Oh, and earlier too, my windows fogged up suddenly. Yes, thank you. So, I ask all of you, all of our divine team, our ancestors, and the Dragon Collective. Hold on, I'm being guided to something else. To that all the masks that held people up in fakeness and it kept them in delusions of being clear of this, being unattached to it, and whatever other delusions and beliefs people may have had that wore a mask of dishonesty about all of this. Those masks shall come off, and all of us shall release the burdens of this darkness, this evil that has been weighing heavily on our shoulders, that has been in our energy fields, in our national collective. And the truth shall be clear in all aspects, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, energetically, and karmically, throughout all of time and space, throughout all lifetimes, timelines, parallel and alternate realms, realities, multi and universes, and any and all other aspects that affect us in this lifetime and moving forward. And all of that darkness shall now come pouring out of us, all this national shame and guilt and self-blame shall come pouring out of us until we're clear of all this dark, evil gunk in us, in our energy fields, until we feel light and clear, that this carton will feel like in a moment. It is coming out, it is being released, and we're getting lighter and lighter and lighter as this stuff comes pouring out of us. I will actually lean it on there so that it can finish pouring out over the next little bit. I don't want anything left in there, so that can keep pouring out. Oh, it feels lighter already. Ooh, wow, this feels good. Oh, we no longer want to or need to carry this burden of our ancestors, of our country, of our culture. It is no longer ours to carry. It shall come pouring out of us and be pulled out and cast into the fire to be burnt away and transmuted into love and light and returned to source for reintegration. And the molasses shall go back to Mother Earth. Ah, yes, special thank you and gratitude to Mother Earth. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot earlier. Dear Mother Earth, we thank you so, so much for helping us heal this evil that has been. And I can actually feel her relief that is kind of coming out. Like I almost want to cry, you know. It's like she is so relieved that it is coming out now, and she is happy to help. This is the kind of stuff that we need to heal and get rid of. Thank you, Mother Earth, for doing this hard work for us, for neutralizing it and transmuting it into love and light, and by absorbing and transmuting it, returning it into source energy, into the divine energy that flows in us and all around us. Let it be fully neutralized and reintegrated into all of creation, into the divine power and force that is everywhere. Thank you. Dankeschön. All my relations. Oh, wow. Ooh. Oh. Oh, and what I just felt too was these vicious, nasty attacks that have been happening on my hand and that always get blocked right away. I feel it for a moment just so I know what's happening, and then it gets blocked. So it's like these vicious attacks of nastiness that is basically often reflected in black magic or dark magic. Just that viciousness of wanting to destroy someone because that dark unhealed person or those dark unhealed people feel hurt, so they feel they have the right to lash out and try to destroy the other person's life. But it is their trauma that they're acting from, right? So they only feel attacked because of all the trauma that they've had. And out of that, they lash out. That they feel that gives them the right to attack others and hurt them and just try to destroy them and so on. So that all goes back to this stuff. Wow, so that's not going to be the last ceremony, guaranteed. But the next ones are going to be more just supporting the healing process, because this will, it will take more than a few weeks. It will take a while, because that stuff has been in the collective for many, many, many years, depending on which part of history we're looking at, from whatever culture. And also, like, if you think about your own culture, there were different times in history when atrocities were committed. Like, for example, the Crusades, they were genocides too, and they happened in the Middle Ages, right? So that was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And way before then, there were wars like thousands of years ago and so on. So all of that stuff needs to come out of us. It's going to keep pouring out of us until it's all out and healed and released. Whoa. Yeah, no, the intensity and big, how should I put this in words? It's like when I get claircognizant guidance, it's sometimes hard to find the right words. It's like a massive undertaking. Thank you, spirits. It's a massive undertaking, and that has to happen worldwide, right? So those of us who are doing this work now, we're just the beginning. As more people awaken, they are also going to do the work, but they're already benefiting from the work that we've done. So we are the trailblazers, we're the pioneers, we're the ones paving the way on this ascension process that is happening more and more in masses, right? Oh, thank you, spirits. Whoa. Holy. Whew. Okay, and I feel like we need the swan feather to represent the angelic realm a little more, with the purity, the whiteness, the lightness. And that shall be, oh, and it's perfect. It spans all across all this stuff. Let me see if I can keep it this way. If I can keep it from twisting. Hold on, does that stay? Okay, that works. There. Oh, all right. that's it for today. So if any of you would like to stay in these energies a bit longer, please pause the video. For the rest of us, let the ceremony now be finished. And we give an enormous amount of gratitude to our spirit team, to the divine, to our ancestors, the Dragon Collective, Mother Mary, to the angels, and to all light beings that were present here, to the 4 directions, the 4 elements, just all beings present here in this ceremony that are helping the healing. We thank you so, so much. This is such an important and overdue release that needs to be removed from the entire collective of the human race. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, please accept our love, thanks, gratitude, and blessings, and open the circle of protection around us, but keep us strongly safe, shielded, and protected. And so it is. Thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations, all our relations. Wow. Whew. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching, for being a part of the ceremony, and for being on your own healing and ascension journey, as well as part of the healing and ascending collective. I so very much appreciate all of you and send you so much love and light, so many blessings and protection. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. And may the truth always be with you. May the light and love always be with you. And may you have great abundance. Bye.